the day after my RGR and EcoSure visits. Hey, my friends, before I show you the ending, if you like the behind-the-scenes looks and the leadership content, please hit follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Good morning, my friends. Just here doing a curbside at one of my other restaurants, making sure that we're ready for any customer first visits. But I had an interesting question from one of our McFamily members: is what can the shift leader do to prepare for an RGR? Well, there's a few things that they look for. First one, I guess I would say, is I guess, one of the biggest ones I think that I talk to my managers a lot is the hospitality part, and being there for the guests, going and outside and speaking to the guests, talking to them, helping them with any needs they might have, so being a hospitality ambassador, right? That's one thing they're definitely going to be looking at. Are you going out to the lobby and checking on the customers? So that's a big one. You got to make sure that they see you do that, and that you're regularly doing it, and not just for the visits, right? That's something that we have to be doing, right? I usually carry BOG cards with me when I see a guest with a child. I take that opportunity to go talk to them, say hello, and give them that. But as shift managers, you might not have BOGs, but you can certainly go out there and talk to them. Ask them how their food is, how their visit was, get some feedback from them. So definitely make sure you're doing that. Another one, travel paths. I've talked about that quite a bit here in the last couple of videos about doing travel paths. Got to be doing those, right? Every 30 minutes, 15 minutes if it's busy. Make sure that you're going out there, checking, not just cleanliness, but check all QSC, food safety, health and safety. You got to check all that in your restaurant. I mean, it's a big long list, so I'm not going to go into that, but you gotta be doing your travel paths effectively also. So if you see something, take care of it, okay? So the day of the RGR, they do travel paths. So they'll go out there and they'll be checking things, and they go check after you. So if you miss something, they see it, you're going to miss points on that. So make sure your travel paths are effective, and you take care of the things that you find. So travel paths, positioning is another one. Make sure you understand the basics of the positioning guide. What the high-lows mean, the peaks, how where you're supposed to position everybody during peaks, the targets, projected people on hand compared to what you actually have on hand. What do you do if somebody doesn't show up? Are you following the correct numbers? All those things. All the basics when it comes to the positioning guide. Again, it's a lot of them, so I can't go into all of it on here on one video, but all those things got to make sure you're on top of. So the positioning is the one. Next one, danger zones. Are you reacting to the danger zones? So there's 4 of them. Won't get into it in this video, but there's 4 danger zones. What are you doing, and how are you reacting to the danger zones? So got to be on top of those. Are you talking to the service team and celebrating or coaching with them throughout the visit? So, if you see opportunities, are you coaching? If they're doing well or hit the targets, are you communicating with them? And I just say, great job, guys. No. Specifically tell them what they did well on, because somebody could have been doing something that was an opportunity, and you just told everybody they did a nice job and really didn't coach on the opportunity, and they might think that I did a great job with everything that I did, and they do the bad things, right? So be specific on what you're coaching, or the feedback that you give when you say stuff like that, because they are listening to you, how you give it back, and not just tell them they did a nice job, but also tell them, if they have opportunities, what they can do to fix it, okay? So that's all part of, the communication on the service team. Same thing in the production area. So it's 2 different questions. The other one is in the production area. What kind of feedback are you giving them? Are you acknowledging good results, or are you coaching opportunities? And so, make sure you're doing that to the kitchen team too. If they hit the KVS times, great job, on that, and be specific. Is it that? And if they have opportunities, hey guys, we were at 61 and my goal was 45, and let's drop it a couple of seconds in the next 30 minutes, an hour, whatever your target is, or your plan is, and then, hey, let's do this and this to try to hit those targets. So they have to hear that from you. Okay, don't just say, hey, we didn't hit it, let's get down to this time, and and then go about your business. No, gotta be more detailed than that. So shift leader, make sure. And I know during a visit, we have kitchen managers in the kitchen that are handling everything back there, but you cannot ignore them, or ignore the kitchen area, I should say. You still have to go and check. You can't say, well, I have a manager in the kitchen area, they should be handling everything in the kitchen area. No, doesn't work that way. The shift leader is responsible for the whole shift. So you need to go back there. You need to coach, and you need to do your travel path back there. You can't ignore the kitchen area. If you do, you will miss the travel path, effective travel path, and you will miss the communication with the kitchen area. Okay? So you have to do that. And again, same thing for the service area. If you have a service manager, you have to do that. You're in charge of the entire shift, not just, doing travel paths and you got that all day and you're good. No. So make sure you're on top of that. Another one is make sure you're on top of all the hand washing. Letting your OA know, the corporate person, that you are, tracking the hand washing, and make sure that you get everybody to do that one at a time. You organize it and you make sure that everybody does it. So stay on top of that. Towel buckets, you make sure you're checking the towel buckets, make sure that the right strength, or or if the water's dirty, make sure it's being changed out, but that you're on top of that. And letting the OA know that, or the OC, operations consultant, make sure that you're letting them know every time that they have to wash their hands, and every time you're doing a travel path. So make them aware that you're doing it, because if you don't tell them, you might be doing it, but they might not see you, and they're gonna knock you off for being inconsistent with them. So gotta tell them, and gotta make sure that they hear you. Okay, so make sure you're doing that. Make sure you understand all your targets and what you're working on in the restaurant. Okay, detail. Don't just say I'm working on service. There's a lot of things in service. They're gonna ask you, like, what particular thing? Drive-thru. Well, there's a lot of things in drive-thru. Order taking, cashier, present, hospitality, a bunch. So are you splitting the function? I mean, what exactly in drive-thru are you working on? The runner. So make sure that you're specific on the things that you tell them that you're working on in the restaurant when it comes to targets or your shift targets. Be specific, okay? So that's something you should be talking to your GM, like what you guys are working on. That way you're prepared, practice, right? So be ready for that. Some other things I could potentially ask you are like what symptoms that are symptoms of foodborne illness. So make sure you memorize those and you understand what those are. Make sure that you know where the illnesses are posted somewhere that prevent you from working in a food establishment. Potentially ask you that. Potentially also ask you where the shutoffs for the water, the power, and the gas are. So you should know what those are. They generally ask the GM about those questions, but you're a shift leader. You should know also if something happens in the restaurant that you have to turn in one of those off. You got to know. So be on top of that. All right. Do you know how to use all the reports, and what reports do you use? Travel path, the OEP reports, R2P reports, KVS reports. Make sure you understand all of those. So, and how to pull them, how to read them, and how to set targets. So make sure you understand those. Okay. Do you know your customer recovery process and where you stand with customer complaints and hospitality, voice, and all that? So make sure you understand those. Where you're at. They potentially could ask you. They could ask your GM, but you should know as well, like what your top opportunities are when it comes to customer recovery, and what the customer recovery process is. Like, what if you have a complaint? Like, who talks to who, and stuff like that, right? So make sure you understand that. Another tip that I could tell you also is make sure that you're following up on hospitality and you're coaching your teams. I tell my shift leaders when they do RGRs is don't worry about coaching and if you see an opportunity, coach, say something, because they're watching. If they see something that you see and you don't coach, then you're missing a point for not coaching, right? So don't matter if they see you. They'll give you the benefit of the doubt because you're coaching and you're giving direction, so you might not miss those points unless you're constantly missing it over and over and over again, and you're coaching over and over again on the same thing. You're gonna miss those questions, right? So as they're assessing you also. Shift leadership is part of the RGR, so they want to see you and how you're interacting, how you're coaching, giving feedback. So you got to be on top of those things. So if you're not doing that, then you're going to potentially miss a lot of those questions. Okay. So your goal is to try to get a 90 or above on the shift leadership questions. It's not very many questions. So you miss 2 or 3, you're in the 80s, and or more than that, you're not doing so great, right? My guy last night missed 1, and he got he was on over a 90. I don't quite remember what the score, a 92, I believe. But yeah, so got to be on top of those things. Okay. What else? Also, pre-shift should have been number 1 on the list, but make sure you do a proper pre-shift checklist. Make sure you're ready. So that's a big one. They'll be checking that. And it prevents 80% of your problems if you're doing a proper pre-shift checklist. Okay. So now it doesn't prevent everything. So you got to still continuously do a travel path to find the things you might have missed or things that now are opportunities, but it will help you prepare for your shift. So stay on top of your pre-shift checklist. Make sure you're doing it. Okay. So that's a big one. And then the last one, post-shift, what you do after your shift. Are you checking your targets? Because they will look at your times after they were finished or they're close to being finishing up. They check how you did, how your results and your targets hit during the time they were assessing your restaurant, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So make sure you know what to do after, like what to check and how to figure out how you did. And what communication you're going to do with your teams. Okay. So my friends, those are the things as a shift leader that you should be aware of when they're doing an RGR. That's what they're checking on you. Okay. Now, when it comes to the rest of the RGR, that's a long list and a lot of things they check. So make sure you're talking to the GM. But definitely make sure on the shift leadership part that you're on top of it. For all my shift leadership, for all my shift leaders out there, that's what you do, and that's how you get a good score. All right, my friends. So good luck. If anybody out there has some best bets on what they do to ensure a great score on RGR and great customer service, let our McFamily know. All right, please share. All right, my friends. I will see you guys on the next one.